That's a perfect example of what inflation is. But inflation, the source of the inflation is debt that is monetized by the Federal Reserve when you print the money. That's the inflation. So, but there's other reasons for it going up. Over-regulations, too much taxation, not enough competition. There's really no competition in medicine. You don't have alternative care freely competing with medical doctors. So you need a much more free market to drive prices down.
I'm from the Danish press. What would you say would be the main reason why the Europeans should really welcome you as the next president?
Well, I don't know whether I should speak to Europe. I'm right now speaking to the American people, but I do know that we get a lot of responses from Europe, and they like what I'm saying because I'm looking to have a different foreign policy and not meddle in their affairs. And maybe some of these other countries around the world are tired of our troops being in their country. I know the Koreans would like us to come home, and a lot of Japanese would like us to come home, and hopefully the Europeans would like us to come home too. Then we could afford our medical care. That was my argument tonight.
Huckabee would still characterize radical Islam as one of the greatest threats we face. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's a serious threat, but he doesn't quite have the same understanding of why they are radical. And that's where our disagreement is, that there's always radicals in every religion. And the people, as a matter of fact, the people in the Far East see us as crusaders. Even the president once referred to us as crusaders and had to quit using that term. I mean, we're over there, and when we 2 million, or at least over 1 million Iraqis have died. I mean, since we've invaded their country. I mean, that's pretty radical, you know. So that was my approach when I talked about foreign policy. That our foreign policy ought to have a golden rule to it. Do unto others. I mean, we wouldn't want them to do, any country to do it to us, but when we go over there and use our CIA to overthrow governments, we've been involved in the Iranian system for a long time. We've propped up Musharraf, we're in Iraq, we're in Afghanistan, we've propped up the Saudi Arabian government since World War II. We're in Turkey, and Turkey's now using our money and our weapons to bomb and fight with northern Iraq. The whole thing is foolish. It's time to change our foreign policy.
You said the other candidates' responses to that position, they seem to kind of laugh it off.
Yeah, but they don't understand the audience that we were talking to outside that studio. And the American people know exactly what I'm talking about.
You said we can't. Multi-generational war. Where are we going to get the kids to fight this? I don't see any of the Republicans.
Well, some claim.
People to join the military.
Yeah, no, it's dwindling, and right now one of the candidates this week said we should stay there 100 years if necessary. Where are you going to get the troops if we go into Iran? They're going to have a draft, and they'll have a draft with women. That's what we have to stop. We need to defend this country, and empires always end by spreading themselves too far. And that's what's happening here. And the first sign when we've overextended ourselves is the destruction of the currency. And just look at what's happened to the value of the dollar.
Mr. Paul,
You said that.
How long can $18 million keep you in this?
18 million. Well, that's just a one-day notice, you know, or a 1 quarter, you know. Matter of fact, it was 20 million in a quarter. So I have no idea. But I'm sort of obligated to my supporters, who are individuals who spontaneously send our money. And if they keep sending me money to stay in the race, that's what I have to do, unless we come out embarrassingly last in these races. You know, as long as it's reasonable, we should pursue.
You said we can't pay lip service to the Constitution.
What's that?
Strong performance in the debate. Is that enough to convince voters?
Well, everything helps.
What have young people meant to your whole campaign here in New Hampshire and across the country?
What have they meant? Oh, they're the base of it. The young people know what's coming. And I brag that they've learned their arithmetic. They figured it out. They know what their obligations are. $60 trillion of entitlement obligation, a Social Security system that's broke. They have to work hard to keep paying into the system on, and they know it doesn't work. So when I talk about saving $100, $200, $300, $400 billion a year and come home and let them get out of Social Security, they're all for it.
You said we can't pay lip service to the Constitution. Which of the fellow Republican candidates do you think does that the most?
No, I'm not going to volunteer. I think I'm going to let somebody else figure that out, because I think all of Washington is guilty of that. If you look at Congress, if you look at the Supreme Court, if you look at the executive branch for the last 50, 60, 70 years, they do pay a lot of lip service, because we have embarked on an unconstitutional manner over these last 100 years. But every single person in Washington takes the oath of office to obey the Constitution, and obviously they don't follow it.
Well, what would you do?
What scares the Republican establishment? Should they be scared?
Well, if power is the only thing they seek, they might be scared. If they wanted constitutional limited government and believed in individual liberty and balanced budgets, they shouldn't be frightened. So I don't know why they should be frightened. The leadership in the party might be, but the grassroots wouldn't be frightened with the program I'm talking about.
If you were elected president, how would you get anything passed by the Congress? How would you get any of your sweeping reforms passed by a Democrat?
Well, I think that a lot of what I'm talking about has great appeal to the Democrats. They believe in civil liberties. They believe in a different foreign policy. They're highly critical of what we're doing. So I think I could get a consensus with them, especially if I talk about never throwing people out in the streets. And see, even in spite of some of these programs we shouldn't have started, I want to get the young people out. The elderly are totally dependent. And they're going to be out in the streets if we continue to do what we're doing. And the only way we can save our dollar and save the system and tide us over and work our way out of this is to cut this overseas spending. So this is very appealing to Democrats as well as Republicans, for that matter. It's very appealing to America to come up with a sensible program. They have to just decide whether or not we have a problem. If they don't think we have a problem, they probably will say, why don't you just go away because everything is fine and we can get young people like you to work forever and take care of everybody else. But that's going to end.
And I was wondering, what exactly do you feel New Hampshire's role is in your personal campaign?
Well, I think it's very important. It's it's the second primary, and I think if somebody does very well on it, they get national attention, and you just keep going on into the next election. So obviously, it's very important. There's been a lot of candidates up here on both sides here for the past year.
Excuse me, sir. I was wondering if it would be possible to arrange a ride in the blimp.
Well, I'm not. I'm not in charge of the blimp. That's an independent. It's an independent expenditure. So you have to call the blimp people.
What's a good showing for you in New
Ready?
Hampshire? Can you beat Rudy again?
1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I
Good luck.
think so, but I don't make predictions. I think we'll do well.
How do you assess your performance tonight?
I felt good about it, because of the format. I like the format. It was less rigid and it was fairer. It was run better, and compared to the amount of time I'll get tomorrow night, I think it was pretty good.
How do you deal with the Silver Fox forum tomorrow night?
Yeah, that to me, and most Americans, even those who disagree with me, tell me. And some Fox people have told me that seems to be unfair. Americans are pretty fair-minded. We disagree and we argue, but they like fairness and they don't like cheating, and they see this as being too deliberate. So that would be, I think Fox has a problem and they have to deal with it. Well, I think they're sick and tired of it. I think they expressed that self last election. In 2006, they wanted change, and there was a big change in this state.
There's a recent Facebook poll that had you at 34%, and an ABC poll at the same time had you at 8%. What do you think the weighting is between those two? The Facebook poll was
I don't.
Online youth.
Somebody else would have to analyze that. There's obviously a difference, but Facebook would obviously be young people, and I'm probably in between the two. Facebook probably gives me more credibility and more votes, but I think the other ones have generally rated me lower.
You said a lot of good things about Barack Obama today. Would you support him over a candidate like Rudy Guliani?
No, I don't think so. And at the end, I said the reason would be the economic policies, because I'm a strict free market person. But when it comes to civil liberties and the war, he has some decent ideas worth thinking about.
Who out of your Republican counterparts would you like to give the most severe history lesson to? Seem to be at odds with.
I don't know. Maybe if they were willing, I'd pass out some books to all of them.
How do you deal with the snickering from Senator McCain, from Governor Romney?
Oh well, I don't listen to it. I didn't hear it.
Congressman, Mayor Giuliani wants to expand the military
military by 200,000 soldiers.
Get ready.
How can we afford it?
Get ready. They're going to draft you. Everybody here, all you young people, get ready for the draft.
Where's the money going to come from?
He'll print it, and the dollar will go bust, and everybody's going to get poor, and then we'll bring our troops home. I don't want to wait till that point. I want to bring them home in a more logical fashion.
What do you make of Rudy Guliani saying that, American foreign policy in the past has no effect on our security?
Well, he's been saying it for a long time, and I give him my explanation, and I think I'll bet you the majority of the American people agree with me on that explanation, because it's too logical to think how to figure out how we would act if somebody did to us exactly what we've done to others.